Hello, this is Michel Leviathan Sorbet and you are watching a new episode on the Wojennik TV YouTube channel. Today I would like to show you a game which was one of the most important Polish games published in 2018. This game was published by Portal Games and it is called Detective, a criminal board game. The game was designed by Przemysław Rymer, by Jakub Łapot, and it was developed by Ignacy Trzewiczek, a very well-known Polish designer, who designed, for instance, Robinson Crusoe. Now, this is a detective game in which we will be trying to solve some mysteries in 5 connected cases. This is a game which was, as I said earlier, one of the most important Polish games of 2018, and when published it created a lot of buzz. Why? Well, because it was a game which supposed to have an innovative approach to detective games and in gaming in general. It was a game which was to bring down the barrier which separated a physical game from the outside world. So while playing this game, we will not only be using physical components enclosed in the box of the game, we will also be using in general everything which is outside of this box and outside of this game. So we will be using internet, we will be using books, we will be using all the information which is accessible through cellular phones, through internet. This is a game for 1 to 5 players, so it is soloable, but it is a cooperative game in which we will be trying to solve the said mystery and the 5 cases which are connected one to another. So those cases will create a unique story. During this review, I won't be giving you any spoilers about this story, so this is a spoiler-free review of Detective. So don't be afraid, I won't explain you how the cases went, what are the most obvious, most difficult things to discover during these cases. I won't be showing you everything, I won't be telling you anything that could spoil your pleasure of playing this title. But I would like to show you this game, the physical components or the majority of those components. I would like also to explain how this game works, and at the end I would like to give you my final thoughts and my final recommendation concerning this title. So let's begin and let's check how the components of the detective criminal board game look like. Here are the elements which will be used during a play of Detective, the modern criminal board game. Now, I won't be showing you exactly all of those components because this is a game in which discovering the story, discovering the elements that you are using in this game are part of the game. I won't be spoiling this, so no spoilers during this review, as I mentioned at the beginning. But let's take a quick look at all the elements that I can show you without revealing anything very important for the story. Now, you will first of all be using a board, but this board will be used only to track some information. On this board, we will be first of all placing our own player's token. This will be this gray car, and this car will be circulating along 5 different locations. We have our headquarters in which we begin each day, we have the police station, we have the tribunal, we have the terrain and the laboratory, in which sometimes you will also be exploring some additional traces. The board has also 2 additional tracks. The first one will be used to track days because it depends on the case that you are working on, but all of them can be of a different length. So, for instance, you can have a case in which you will have only 3 days to resolve it, or you can have one where you will get 5 days. And this token will be used to track days. The second token, the blue one, will be used to track hours because you will have to track each and every activity during the day, and each time you will do such an activity, the card or the information in the Antares app will tell you how much time did it consume. So, for instance, you can run into a card where you will try to locate someone or go to another place, and the card will tell you that exploring this path of the story took, for instance, 2 hours. You will then move the token 2 hours ahead. Now, moving between locations is also a matter of time. Each time you change your location, you have to spend 1 hour because you just have to physically travel to the new location. The track is divided into 2 sectors, the black sector and the red sectors, and the red sector. Now, moving along the black part of the track is free, you do not have any problems with it, but when you reach the red part of the track, this means that you are working overtime. And working overtime is stressful, is also related to fatigue. Each time this marker is moved to one of the overtime hours, you have to take one stress marker, and each time during each of the 5 cases you will receive information about the stress level, which will be also a scenario ending condition, because if you reach the level indicated in the scenario description when it comes to the number of stress markers, the scenario immediately ends and you have to pass to the final report. So this is sometimes worthy because you can acquire very precious information which will help you to resolve the mysteries in the cases, but sometimes it will also require you to draw those tokens. Furthermore, each of those tokens will mean that you are losing points, because at the end of each scenario you will prepare a final report. You will be answering questions in the Antares app and your final score will be calculated. The final score will be also adjusted by the number of those stress markers. So for instance, if you score 18 points from 30 and you had accumulated 2 stress markers, your final score will be 16. So it's always a question of decision. Do you want to take those additional markers, or do you want to end the day? Because it's absolutely possible to end the day by reaching 16 hours or sometimes even earlier. Now, apart from the board, which is used to store those markers and to track those information, you will be using cards. Those cards are divided into 5 cases. Case 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which of course form an entire story, an entire campaign, and information from one case, from one story will be related to the others. It's important to play them from the first one to the last one, not to skip any of them, because you will miss a lot of important things, and resolving the final mystery will be, if not harder, even impossible. Now, apart from those cards, which I will not be showing you because I do not want to reveal absolutely any information about the storyline, you will be using additional markers and additional counters. And we receive 5 types of those counters. I have already spoken about the stress markers. The second type of markers are the starred blue counters, which are the authority markers. During gameplay, you will obtain such markers, and they will be used during play in order to acquire some additional information, in order to do some additional actions. In general, you can spend them whenever the rules on the cards or in the Antares application tell you to do so. The third type of markers are the ability markers, additional ones, and those will be related to the capacities of your detectives. There are different types of those counters which are related to some domains, for instance, with the ability to question some witnesses or to acquire information through the internet, etc. There is also a Joker token which can replace each and every of those counters. Now, those counters will be useful when you are trying to follow a trace during the reading of a card or in the application, and sometimes having such a counter in your pool will enable you to acquire additional proofs, additional information. So it is very important to spend them wisely because the pool of those markers is limited. The fourth type of markers are those gray X's, which are used to indicate that a detective has already used his special ability during each day, because we can use such an ability only once. And we receive also a set of 5 small counters, small markers, which are sometimes used to track additional information on the main board. Now we receive also detective tiles, as you can see, two-sided. On one side we have the detective. So we have, for instance, first of all the name and the surname of this detective. We have also a background and we have a special ability. Each of those detectives is different. Apart from the detectives, as you can see, each of them also grants you a special capacity and also sometimes a special type of counter which is associated to such a detective, which is then added to your common pool, which you can use. On the back side we receive consultants, because the game is designed in such a way that you can play it easily solitaire in a group of 2, 3, 4 or 5 people. If you're playing less than 5 people, each of the players will randomly or deliberately choose their detective, and the remaining tiles will be flipped over to the consultant side. They won't be giving you any additional abilities during gameplay, but at the beginning of the scenario you will receive the counters indicated on the back of those tiles. So this will be an additional benefit from playing with those tiles. So it's a way to balance gameplay. To be sincere, because the capacities of each of those detectives is not a very important factor. They are not very strong. I even prefer to play with 1 or 2 consultants, because those markers are very powerful and they can grant us a lot of benefits during gameplay. We receive some plastic bags which are used not only to store elements between plays, but also they are used to store evidence, because during gameplay sometimes you will draw cards which will be cards related to other cases. For instance, in case 2 you will draw a card related to case 4, and in such a way those orange cards, the background cards, will be stored in such a bag and read only when you reach case 4. You receive also 3 documents. You receive the rule book, as you can see, of the same size as the box. So this rule book shows you exactly what are the components of the game, explains how the game works, and the game works pretty straightforward, because during your daytime activity you will have the possibility to follow a trace. Following a trace means that you are reading a card which you are allowed to by the rules, or by the previously read cards, or by the information in the Antares database. You can search through this base, searching for information. You can always check all the information that you have stored in this base, and in this base, which is really an important part of the game, you will be tracking information about personas which you encountered. You will track evidence that you gathered. For instance, fingerprints or other material which will be analyzed in your laboratory. So this application will not only sometimes require you to read additional information about questioning witnesses, about some historical background, but you will also be able to return to it to read about what you have discovered earlier. You can use your detective's ability. You can also browse through the internet, because sometimes it will be not only useful but even compulsory to read on the internet, to read the internet and search for information which will help you to resolve the mysteries. Sometimes it will require from you to Google a little bit, or to look at the maps of certain places in the world. So it's a nice addition, because you will be using not only the physical components, not only the application, but in general also your general knowledge and all the information which are available in the internet. Now you can also write a final report, which means that you are just spending 1 hour to write this report. This will be at most times your final action during a day, and this will grant you 1 additional authority token, and it will enable you to spend this token later during the reading of additional cards. After finishing a day, we reset the hours marker and we start a new game. Now, as I said earlier, moving through locations requires you to move your pawn to spend 1 hour, so it's important to track time during gameplay. When it comes to the app, well, it's also worth mentioning that in order to use this app, you have to, or rather, it's not even an app, it's a web page in which you will have to register yourself. It will grant you an access and the possibility to track not only the first series of cases in this game, because since the publication of this game we already had also the second edition with additional crimes, additional stories. It's also stored in the same database. Then you have also the possibilities to sometimes look to the other side of the cards, because some cards are double-sided. If you have the specific tokens, as I explained earlier, it sometimes enables you to look at the other side of the card, which will grant you precious information. Here you have an example also of a card, a sample card, in which you have first of all the possibility to read additional information in the Antares database. Secondly, you can also spend a token in order to look at the other side of the card. You have the information, how long did it take to acquire those information, and finally you have also additional traces, additional paths which can be taken. Here, for instance, you can go to the laboratory in order to verify some samples. So it's pretty straightforward. It's very functional. It's very logical. You should have absolutely no doubt how to play the game. And that's pretty it when it comes to the way that the game works. I won't be showing you, as I said earlier, specific cards. I won't be describing the way that each of those cases should be resolved. It's all part of the fun and of the game. Now, at the end of the rulebook, we have also a suggestion that if playing with multiple players, it's a nice idea to devise the roles, because each player can have a certain role during gameplay. For instance, one of them can be the computer geek. He can browse through the internet, he can search for additional information. Another one can be the narrator. He can read the information. He can be responsible for building the climate of the game. Another person can be responsible for taking notes, which is also a very important part of the game. So that's a nice suggestion. I suggest you to read through it and to decide if you want to attribute such roles during your plays. I didn't show you the second document. The second document is the list of all the 5 of all the 5 cases that you have to resolve in this story. I won't be opening it, I'm just showing you it. It's the one with the red background. And finally, also a short description of the Antares website, in which you will be storing all the information about the personal acts, about the fingerprints that you run into, about additional samples or additional information that will be stored on this website. After reaching the final day and the final hours of this day, you have to end the game and you have to pass on to creating your final report. Now this final report is also being done on the Antares website. You have a set of questions to which you will have to answer. There are some major questions which will influence at most times your final score, and additional questions which are also important but that will grant you less points in case of giving a correct answer. What is worth mentioning is that giving a wrong answer during this final survey will have you lose points. So it's even more beneficial to choose the answer "I do not know" than to take a guess, because sometimes guessing means losing additional points. In the end, you will be rated. You will have a certain you will gather a certain amount of points, and you will also receive information about how you rated compared to other detectives, to other persons who passed this final test during gameplay. So some statistics also are presented. Very nice, because you can compare your score to other players. And that's pretty it when it comes to the way that you should that the components of detective look like, of how the gameplay looks like. Now I would like to give you my personal thoughts about this game. I would like to tell you how I find it and did I have fun playing it. Detective is one of the most important Polish games published in 2018, and I remember that I have acquired it sometime somewhere at the beginning of 2019. I even made the unboxing. I published it on our YouTube channel, but then the game went into my shelf for several months. Well, I didn't have the correct partner to play this game, and I wanted to give it a shot in a gaming group, not only solo. And I decided to play this game finally at the end of month of December 2019, and I had a blast. It was fantastic, it was phenomenal. I really had a fantastic time. Having said that, this game became my game of the month in January 2020. I played this game with my son Jacques and we had absolutely wonderful time. So, as you might expect after those few phrases, this will be a rather enthusiastic conclusion. I would like to give you my final thoughts about this game, and I would like to underline what are the strong points of this game, and to be objective as much as it is possible, I would like also to give you some weaker points of this game. But beginning with the strong points. Now, the first one, which in my opinion is absolutely the most important, the biggest strong point of this game, is its climate, is the way that the game flow works. Now, this game is phenomenal. If you like games in which you will have to talk a lot, in which you will have to think a lot, in which you will have to solve mysteries, to acquire information, this is a perfect game for you. In this game you will have a lot of mysteries to be solved, not only one, because you will have to gather information, you will have to return to things that you discovered in past cases. Sometimes some information which you believe are irrelevant to the case will at the end be your crucial evidence, be some information that will help you to solve a big mystery. What I really like is the story told by this game. Jakub Łapot and especially Przemysław Rymer had done a fantastic job by designing this game and this storyline. It's a storyline which is composed of 5 scenarios which are connected one to another. And even sometimes when you think that the things that you are doing, the mysteries that you are solving are not connected to the precedent ones, you will be surprised. I like a lot the way that the game works, because the scenarios, the cases which you will be solving are very different one from another. After playing the first case, I was skeptical, I was somewhat disappointed, because our final score of after the first case was not high. I think it was something of about 10 points, 10 from 18 or 10 from even 20. So we didn't solve this, we didn't end this case with a high score. And I wasn't very thrilled, I didn't feel this game. But after playing the second scenario, then the third, the fourth, the fifth, I was absolutely blasted by this game. It was so intense, so dynamical, so surprising from time to time, that I had a wonderful time with my son. We had really a lot of discussions. We had really a lot of ideas how to solve those mysteries. We had a lot of connections. We were taking notes, draw pictures. We were browsing through the internet. We were trying to locate some places, to find some even vague connections between persons, places, things, events, etc. That this is a game during which we absolutely forgot the time. We were playing 3-4 hours without stopping, and we were absolutely happy and so immersed that we forgot about the outside world. If a game can do such things, it means it is a really good game. So the storyline, the idea behind this game are the strongest points of this title. What I really like is also the fact that the cases are not easy to solve. You will really very often follow traces, follow information which in the end will prove to be irrelevant, which will only cause you to lose time. Time is crucial. You always have to think, if you want to follow a path and at the same time lose some time, or do you prefer follow another path, check for other information? You really have a lot of decisions to make, and sometimes those decisions will be really agonizing. You will really have to take hard decisions, and at the same time sometimes even negotiate with your fellow gamers in order to choose one of the possibilities. So I really like this fact a lot. What I really like is also the thing, what I already mentioned, that the dynamic of the cases will be different. Sometimes the game will instantly and abruptly accelerate, to slow down, to give you more time to think about what happened, to analyze, and then it will instantly become more rapid. So I like this because thanks to it, the game was very surprising. It was very intense, and I like it, and I liked it a lot. I think the Antares database is also a very strong point of this game. It was well designed. The information stored in this database are logical. The database is functional. You can easily search for information which is inside this base. At the same time, it is also a base which will be used just the amount of time that enables you to still play a board game. Because with all the board games which are app enhanced, there is always this doubt: do we still have a board game, or is it a computer game, an app game? Here it's a board game with the database, with the internet database, and the amount of time that you spend in this base is just enough. It's not too much, so that you could say that you spend most of your time in front of the computer screen. You concentrate rather on the storyline, on the cards, on the notes that you take, on the conversation with your partners, and you spend more time doing this than looking at the Antares database. And this is good because this balance between the base and the physical components of this game had been obtained. Now, those are the very strong points of this game. I have said that there are some weaker points, so I would like also to express them. Now, the first one is the most obvious one, maybe a trivial one. This is a game which you will play probably only once, because I can't imagine replaying this game even after a few years without knowing all the things that I know now after finishing all the 5 cases. I imagine that it is possible to play this game again with a different group, and after a few years you won't be remembering everything, but the major events, the major conclusions will be things that you will be that you will remember. And even if not, while replaying this game, I think that those information would very quickly return. You will remember those things even if you thought that you forgot them a long time ago. So you won't also experience this surprise, this feeling of discovering something new. Those won't be those fresh elements that you received while playing this game for the first time. The second aspect is that I didn't like the special capabilities of all the detectives in the game. You receive your own character with a special ability, but do you really play as this character? First of all, this special capability is sometimes useless, or it is so small that you kind of forget to use it, or you do not use it because you do not see the point of using it. While playing with 2 players, we had a team of 2 agents with abilities which really granted us no or very little advantage. So after playing all those games, I have absolutely no connection with the personas which I should incarnate. So I wouldn't be even able to give you the name of one of the detectives which I played. And if a game enables you to play as a character, I believe it should enable you to establish a link between yourself and this character. I had absolutely no link between me and my character in the game. The third thing is the way that the cards are prepared. I think the storyline is excellent. I think the narrative is also excellent, but sometimes I had the feeling that some descriptions, some information are too lengthy. It's too long, it's sometimes repetitive. At the same time, I do not know why on those cards you always receive information addressed to you as one person. I am talking about the Polish version, in which the second person in the singular and the second person in the plural are different. In English it won't be an issue, because the cards addressed to you will address both a single player and also a group. Here in Polish it's a difference, and on the cards you had the second person of the singular. So while playing as a team, if we go to the same places all the time, if we work as a team of detectives, I do not see absolutely no reason why the cards were addressing only one detective. I find it somewhat bizarre. Having said that, I believe that Detective is an excellent game, a very original design with a fantastic storyline, with a great narrative, a game which is something that you should experience by yourself. If you had not the possibility to play this game up until now, I strongly recommend you try it, because it's a fantastic adventure and a great gaming experience. This was a review of Detective by Portal Games. Thank you a lot for watching this video. I hope you will have a fantastic day. See you next time.